John Harper here. I thought I'd make a video on 3 or 4 things that I've learned in the diamond approach that are central to my life now. After 30 some years in the diamond approach, it seems that these 3 or 4 elements are the most significant. They shape my perception of the world, my experience of myself, how I interrelate to the world and people. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll make a video about that. And then I thought, well, before I even address that, I need to address and talk about one of the foundational pieces of understanding that we use so much in the diamond approach, and that is the theory of holes. So I thought I would make a video of the theory of holes. And then that coincided with an idea I had about all these books on this shelf behind me. There's about 100 of them. And I typically read 50 books or more a year. And so in my lifetime, I've read thousands of books and given them away and thrown them away and hung on to a few. And every once in a while I'll reference one of them, but mostly they just sit back there and keep me comfortable. And so I thought one thing I would do is I would shred all those books. And by shredding, what I mean is that I will take those books, take a book, read a chapter, and maybe write something about it or do a short video on it. And so since I'm going to do this video on the theory of holes, I went and I got the first book I ever read on the diamond approach, Diamond Heart Book 1, Elements of the Real in Man. And in a previous video I mentioned how I ran across this book, but that's what I'm going to do. I have torn out the first chapter. Well, I've torn out the second chapter, and it's on the theory of holes. And here we go, the theory of holes. Fundamental to learning a great deal about oneself and how people behave and why they behave the way they do, and how useful it is for learning about oneself and growing up. We're born into this world with a body, an animal nature, but we also have an inner nature, what is often referred to as an essential nature or true nature. Our essential nature includes many qualities that can be experienced and discriminated as unique manifestations of our true nature. These are often referred to as essential qualities or essential aspects. They include qualities like brilliance, clarity, intelligence, love, acceptance, compassion, will, strength, pleasure, consciousness, curiosity, and peace, to name just a few. As we grow and develop, we gradually become more and more identified with our body, as our essential nature fades into the background or into the unconscious. This coming into the world process also results in our attention being directed outwardly to address all of our wants and needs. No surprise here. As animals, we depend on the external world for food, shelter, and survival. But part of our dilemma as human beings is that our biological nature gets laid upon our psychological nature, which results in us looking to the external world as the source to meet all of our internal needs. The process goes something like this. Little by little, my connection to brilliancy or clarity gets forgotten or pushed underground by my interactions with my environment. These qualities either aren't recognized or valued, or they may be seen as not needed for what my parents want me to become. Or my compassion is desensitized and fades, where my will is challenged and forced into subordination, where my purity is too much, and so it goes. Each of us is left with our personal story and our unique connections or disconnections from our essential qualities in nature. These connections are experienced as holes or deficiencies, both psychologically and physically. This process of growing up leaves all of us with many holes, and our personality, which emerges as our best attempt to remedy the situation and get our nature back. The issue, of course, is that we are looking outside for something that is inside, and what we are looking for was not taken, only forgotten. Most of this happens by age 3 or 4. It's 90% complete by age 6 or 7, which is when our capacity for self-reflection and logic really enters into our experience. So we've pretty much always known ourselves with these holes. They are, in fact, me. That is the continual sense of me I have always known as me. So what's the significance of all this, and how can this knowledge benefit us? First, let's see how this relates to spiritual wisdom and current psychological understanding. The theory of holes articulates what generates desire. Many spiritual teachings and teachers understand desire to be at the root of suffering. Psychological understanding points to self-awareness and exploration as powerful factors in well-being and good mental health. Bottom line, taking the road less traveled, exploring our holes, is the way and the process to more wholeness, no pun intended, satisfaction, and value. So how does the process look? Let's say you're depressed because you've spent a lot of time and energy trying to succeed. You've been frustrated, you've been despondent, and many other things as part of your ongoing efforts. If we look into any of those emotional reactions, we will find a hole related to a specific aspect of our essential nature. If we look into our motivation or desire, we will discover a hole as the origin of those energies. Allowing the experience of a hole to emerge without acting out on our reactions eventually brings us into full contact with the whole, which without the judgment and reactivity is simply an experience of a certain type of non-threatening space. In fact, it is usually quite peaceful. Continuing our inquiry with the openness and support of this non-reactive space will provide an opportunity for what has been forgotten to emerge into consciousness. When an essential quality emerges, there is immediate recognition that this is what one really longs for, and that external seeking misdirects us. This is seen and known as a type of ignorance, and this knowledge helps us to take the conscious turn inward. Holes are like portals or stargates, and the experience of going through them is more profound than going to a different planet or dimension, because where we wind up is closer to the real.